Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Golden Futures Channel, a Canadian exploration company focused on acquiring, advancing, and developing high-grade precious metal projects. Joining us, as always, we have Stephen, the Chief Executive Officer. Welcome back, sir.
Oh, thanks, guys. It's good to be here, man.
And it's been a little while, so we need to get some updates here. You guys have been dropping some news. Golden Futures reports check assays on these samples from the 2021-2022 drill program at the Hercules project. So what insight are we getting from these results?
Well, what was important about doing this work was we had to make sure that we had a reliable method of assaying these results. The Hercules has got a history of incredibly high grades, and in places within the veining, you get these the nugget effect. In fact, it's probably one of the most pronounced nugget effect deposits that in recent history for Canada. There's places on the vein that was running up to more than 10,000 grams per ton. So you're looking at a couple of percent gold in the rock. And our assays ranged from within the mineralized zone from about 1 gram up to about 37 grams. So were we missing the nuggets? Were we getting nuggets? How did this shape up? So basically, we took 25 of the intermediate samples that were determined in the assays first time around, running from 1 gram to about 13 or 14 grams, and then subjected them to a very rigorous program of atomic absorption analysis. That's a mouthful. And it followed on with a fire assay where you do a grind of the rock, then you sieve it for the coarser fraction, and assay the fine fraction and the coarse fraction. And the reason you do that is, of course, as everyone knows, gold is highly malleable. And if you have a good grain of gold in there, it could well plate out as a large flake rather than grind into powder like quartz does. So it would go to the coarse fraction. Now, yes, we did determine we had coarse gold in some of the samples, but the technique we were using, which was fire assay followed by the atomic absorption originally, worked very well. And that we had only a couple of samples, 3 out of the 25, that showed any variance over about 20%. And that's really acceptable in the world of gold. When you're talking about 1 to 20 parts per million, and having a reliable determination, that's it can be troubling. A company called Eastmain had an interesting property in Quebec that they ultimately ended up drilling huge diameter core in order to get enough sample to be reliable. In our case, we're drilling with what they call NQ, which is about 2¼ inches in diameter core. And we split that 50% to go to the lab. And that is looking like it's going to be a reliable way to do this. So, so at the end of the day, we had about 85% of the samples were within a few percentage reproducibility. And then we had that small portion that was not. So this is something that a lot of gold deposits have problems with. Companies, if anyone remembers Rubicon and Red Lake, their first attempt to open a mine failed miserably when their 1.1 million ounces of gold resource after they started production ground down to 110,000 ounces when they actually got there and had a reliable way of determining what they had in the ground. So we don't really want to spend $450 million of our shareholders' money ultimately to find out that we've got 1/10 of what we had. So if anything, we'll probably be underestimating constantly our gold content just to make sure that it's reliable. So
that's pretty incredible insight. And speaking of shareholder capital, you guys did do a private placement, but before we talk about that, do you want to just for the audience that's looking for those catalysts, when's the next drill results coming down the wire? When can we expect some more news?
We are in that time period when if you're not working actively, you don't want to be starting actively. We're at spring breakup, the freshet period. So with snow's melting, there's a lot of water on the site. So we'll probably begin drilling towards the end of next month, May. And then having first results coming back, first samples going to the assay lab mid-June. And if we get the turnaround that we've had recently, we could by the end of June, early July, have our first round of the next set. And I'm really looking forward to these, because these are the last 4 holes of our first program. This is the good stuff that we're hoping that we're actually going to have when we've already found good stuff. And these holes are going in the southeast end of the Golden Mile Zone. There's I was just calling up a couple of the historic assays that were done in the area. There was a 11 meters of 32 grams per ton that wasn't tested by the previous operators. That was a channel sample across the mineralized zone. We're going to be drilling under that area and slightly to the southeast. So there could be some very spectacular results here. And hole 14, the last of the preliminaries, is the one where we're going to try and test the stacking of the veins, because we have 12 targets within that limited part of the property. And 3 of them seem to be only about 75 meters apart when you get to depth. So we're going to put a deeper hole in, about 300 meters in length. It's going to go through the Lucky Strike, and then it's going to go through the Golden Mile, and then it should penetrate the Golden Mile GM footwall zone that we hit earlier in our program. So I'm quite excited about that. And there was in 2010 4 or 5 holes in that area that didn't hit all 3 zones, but they individually hit the zone. And I'm thinking, well, if we can go through all 3, prove a stacking process here, that's going to blow up the resource estimate for this property. It's just going to be fantastic.
Yeah, 100%. Very exciting stuff, man. So just kind of looking at it from a capital standpoint here, you guys just did recently raise that private placement of 339,000. How's that being utilized? And do you want to talk about the current funding within the drill program, just to reiterate some of that?
Yep. No, this is going to be about 80% is going to go into the drill program for the flow through money that we raised. The balance is actually going to be spent. We're going to be bringing on a very technically advanced team to look at what we believe we found is the structural control on the gold, where the gold occurs in the veins. And it's very interesting. The magnetic signature that we've obtained on airborne surveys, it seems to indicate that there's a fracturing that forms a sort of a lazy X, about that kind of an angle.
Yeah.
And where those we see this in this is brought on where this black magnetic rock I've mentioned to you earlier occurs, but it seems like you can recognize that the penetration of the dike rock occurred where these X's are, and it definitely formed a very structurally complex little window within the bigger intrusive. And this little window seems to be a great place for the gold to accumulate. The veining is very complicated, it seems like, but it also seems to plunge off to the northwest. And if that's the case, it should be recognizable and literally down to hands sample scale. And this team will be looking at recognizing the structural controls within the rocks, particularly the dike rocks, and how that plunges off to the northwest. It's our sort of broader thinking is what's indicating this. And so this team, as it's on the ground, will also infill a lot of the sampling of the Golden Mile zone and some of the other zones we're working on it. I believe over about a 400-meter long strike length, which is the heart of the Golden Mile zone. Yeah. There's only 11 channel samples taken across it. Lots of grab samples, but only 11. So it really does need more detailed mapping, and it really does need more detailed surface sampling. So we'll have a rock. At the same time we're taking core samples, we'll be taking like what I call surface core, which is channeling out continuous samples on the surface and then sending that in for very detailed laboratory work. So
Well,
So this is where it gets a lot of fun.
and I'm going to look forward to it here. I was going to say this is going to be an upcoming few months of hopefully some excitement. So on that note, I do want to pass the question off to the viewers. We'd love to know what you guys think about all this in that comment section below. Definitely consider subscribing because as news comes down the wire, we'll continue to update you here. But stay cool, stay awesome, and as always, I look forward to catching you in the next one.